So, first of all, thank you very much for joining today. It was like literally a hunting session for me because I was trying to catch you for quite some time, but we were not having a common slot where we can get free and talk. But thankfully, today is the day when we can
My
talk
pleasure,
together.
sir.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, for my viewers, I must tell that Vimarsh Padha belonged to the first batch of MSc Integrated Economics at Shri Vaishno Devi University, and he passed out in 2019, if I am right.
Yeah.
And then he went on to join IIT Bombay for his M.Phil program, and now he's pursuing a Ph.D. from the School of Economics. You call it School of Economics or
Yes.
Department
So
of
recently, it had been segregated. Initially, it was under HSS, Humanities and
Economics?
Social Sciences. Now it's Department of Economics.
Achha, it is Department of Economics. It has been segregated from the Humanities and Social Sciences. Okay, okay, okay. So Vimarsh, thank you very much for joining once again. And since Vimarsh has been in academics and that too in damn, I will say serious academics for quite some time, so our questions and answers will be also a little bit different. So Vimarsh, first thing first, tell me how it is different. Like means again for the viewers and those people who want to pursue higher studies, what is it which make your profile more academic rather than more job oriented?
So, from academic perspective, like if someone is interested in higher studies, so how they should go about building the profile. See, the basic skill set, during the entire coursework or the curriculum which we have in our programs in the university, so that basic skill set everyone has to get honed with,
Mhm.
regardless of the discipline or whatsoever, because even if you are thinking of industry or corporate, you have to be honed with that prerequisite, right?
Okay.
But when it comes to academia now, specifically what they look into, like when you are applying to higher education institutions, they will be specifically looking at your academic rigor. Now, what are the parameters for that academic rigor? Now,
Hmm.
number one comes to your performance in the coursework which you have in your curriculum, and
Mhm.
the research projects or the dissertations which we have in our
Mhm.
respective
Mhm.
disciplines, be it BTech or masters or other uh, uh, respective curriculums.
Mhm.
Now, when it comes to applying for, say, for example, PhD, now when they are going to evaluate your profile, it's not solely on the grades or GPAs you are going to score, but
Mhm.
yes, they do matter. The pointers do matter. There is some significant weight which is accorded to them, but
Mhm.
your approach towards, your discipline should not be completely driven by scoring those GPAs, because there is
Mhm.
a lot other than that which gets into when you are sitting for an interview or when they are
Mhm.
trying to assess or evaluate your profile. Now, what
Mhm.
is that additional thing? Now, number one comes the extra co-curricular activities, which may be other than your own discipline, which take place
Mhm.
in your department. Now, per se, given my experience in SMVDU, if I may try to relate, for example, you used to take workshops on LaTeX. Now, many
Mhm.
of us are very ignorant about it.
Mhm.
But academically speaking, it is very, very important as a tool for you, even as a researcher, or as even for the master's student I'm
Mhm.
speaking
Mhm.
of. Okay,
Mhm.
when it comes to academic writing, so those tools prove to be really handy.
Yeah.
Okay, it may sound very, very nuanced or something which we can be ignorant of, but these
Mhm.
small things really add up going forward. Next thing is communication skill, which SMVDU actually puts a lot of weight on.
Mhm.
Interpersonal skills, etc. You and the department of philosophy has been very active in this, be it related to the sessions. I remember on constitution also we used to have those
Yeah.
sessions. Those
Mhm.
workshops are, I think, year on year you have those workshops also. So
Yeah.
it's not
Now
only
we have
these
made it a course, so
yes,
that is
yes.
already taught in the university.
Yes, in addition to curriculum, communication skill course, these activities also do add value to your academic pursuits, I would say, because
Mhm.
at the end, when you are thinking of building your profile academically, now, other than your GPA, what I was mentioning,
Mhm.
next thing comes is what have you done in academia. Now, the key parameter which today in higher education they look at is your publications. Now, for a
Mhm.
student who is in bachelor's, obviously they are not that much versed with the discipline that
Mhm.
they can think in terms of the way a
Publishing
research
a
scholar.
paper.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
So now the point comes that now here the importance of mentoring comes into picture.
Mhm.
Now, it's not that a BTech student or a bachelor student in economics also, they cannot go about thinking of working on themes related to research.
Yeah.
They can. All they need is proper mentoring, number one. Now, mentoring is one aspect, but before you get mentored, you should yourself be honed with the necessary tools which you need, because a mentor can provide you guidance. They can put resources at your disposal to work on, but you have to be there with the bare minimum prerequisites which you need to carry forward your research, right? And before that, you should have your own questions, right? As a researcher, if you are thinking, you cannot be dependent on your mentor or the supervisor for coming up to you with the problems and you start working on them. Then the purpose is diluted, right? It's not your pursuit which is going forward, and how that may be a problem later on. Now think of a student who is pursuing problems, okay, not because of their own curiosity, and this is the case with many of us when we are doing these assignments or group projects or other tasks which are assigned, right? In many cases, when we are doing our thesis also, we tend to remain ignorant about these things, right? But eventually, when you end up in applying for higher studies, when your profile gets evaluated, now they are going to grill you on these parameters. They are going to ask you things which you are going to mention there. If you are stating that you have worked on a project X wherein you are using these particular methods, these computation techniques, you have to be honed with them. So it's very important that the match between the skill set is there with what you are going to produce, right? And number two, when it comes to higher studies, like academically, when you are building your profile, now you have to be very specific to your area of interest, because you cannot be general, have a general approach or generic approach. Like, for example, a student who is gearing up for placements, they may be thinking of core or non-core companies, right? For a technical graduate, they may be thinking of companies which are specific to their skills, right? For a non-core student, they may be thinking of respective profiles. But academically, when you are thinking for higher studies, you have to be very specific. Why I'm saying this? For example, a person X is interested in particular area. For example, I personally am interested in monetary economics. So it is very important that I identify a good institution, number one, and most importantly, the best resource person in that area who can guide me in that area. That is something which matters more when it comes to higher education, I think, specifically talking about the research part. Number two, your supervisor has his interests, his or her interests. They have to be in line with your interests. Number two, the resources which you need to further your interests, you have to first ensure that wherever you are going to land up, does that place offer you that exposure, those resources to gear up with those skills? Now, like I would like to share my experience in IIT B. Like prior to this, like immediately when I graduated from SMVDU, so I was working in a think tank in Delhi with the former chief economic advisor, and there was a chairman from IMF. Now, while doing research there, I got some perspective about things, like which there were things which we were learning during the coursework in SMVDU, and while working on the problems, what I realized is that there is still a lack of theoretical underpinnings which you need for a particular discipline. I mean, before you jump into the problems of a particular discipline, there are theoretical underpinnings you should be very clear with. Because I'm stating its importance from the academic perspective, because it's very important. Now, as a researcher, when you realize this, so first question was that how can I bridge this gap? So I applied to few institutions. I got a call from IIT Kanpur, then IIT B for M.Phil program, and then I also got an offer from RBI for 1 year of internship. But eventually I took a call and took admission here, and over the coursework, like after I was done with my coursework of M.Phil, I had this clarity, like where my particular interest lies. And most importantly, like I mentioned earlier, like it's very important that the supervisor you have, their interest should be in line with your interests. And number two, the skill sets, the environment, the resources which the place, where you are studying is offering, it's very important. If it's not in line with what you are thinking to work on, then there is going to be a complete mismatch, and you may end up, jeopardizing everything, right? So given that, I personally am working on problems which need computation methods, and a lot of methods which are stemming from electrical engineering and allied disciplines.
Hmm.
In IIT, we have this flexibility that a student, regardless of their discipline, they can get enrolled into any of the course in any of the department.
There are three things which you have actually talked about, apart from the interest and the areas of, say, interest of you, as well as the institution, as well as the department, as well as the, say, the potential guide or supervisor. You talked about LaTeX, that is definitely a document formatting system, which is better than Microsoft Word, as most of the people will agree with. And definitely all the papers, all the higher papers are written in LaTeX only. Second thing is about the communication skill. Third, about the paper publication. Usually, academic people will also say that there is also a weightage of the number of conferences and seminars
Exactly.
which you go on to
Yes, I'll
attend.
expound on
Uh,
that. Yeah.
yeah, as well as like the internships which you can go for, because you yourself have been to RBI internship and RBI competitions, and people brought level to our say university. So expound on that as well.
Sure, sure. So, in addition to the core curriculum, what it's offering, the
Hmm.
key skill sets, like I said mentioned, like today, I mean, be it academia or industry, you need bare minimum coding skill set also,
Hmm.
because data science is, I mean, is I won't say is, it already has entered every discipline. Even,
Hmm.
I mean, we can name any social science discipline as well. I mean,
Hmm.
which we always thought of as more of driven by theory. Even data science is helping in working out the problems in that
Hmm.
discipline as well. Now, in addition to what I had mentioned earlier, like the weightage is according to conferences, seminars, workshops, your participation, and your presentations also. They do matter. They do show your interest, your pursuits in the respective discipline when
Hmm.
your application is being assessed.
Hmm.
And I can vouch for SMVDU. I mean, one thing which I really admire about that place, I can vouch for that if I'm even comparing it with a place like IITB or even best of the institution across the country.
Hmm.
The extent of exposure which we experienced there, and I assume that legacy is still being carried forward. I mean,
Hmm.
the extent of exposure in terms of the resource persons, the best of the workshops. You name any best conference in the country from our discipline which was not conducted in our department, I
Hmm.
cannot think of any. The best resource persons have been there, and in a way that actually helps, I mean, the learners uh, in a particular domain, right? If you have
Hmm.
access to such things, right? So in that way, I mean, like personally, I there hasn't been any instance like I would have ever skipped even a single seminar in
Hmm.
my discipline. And sometimes it used to be like, I mean, most of the students may be not participating at all, but the importance eventually you start to realize when you see that in particular discipline, when people are assessing your profile, what are they
Hmm.
looking at? So they are looking at these extra co-curricular activities also.
Yes.
So interdisciplinary, and it doesn't have to be from your discipline, it doesn't have to be from the core discipline. For example, you are participating in a workshop from computer science to learn maybe data science applications which you can
Yeah.
use in your discipline as well. So
Hmm.
you are getting honed with a skill set also, and the person, be it an HR or an academic person who is evaluating your profile, they do get an impression that what likely is with this person as a skill which
Hmm.
can be of use, I mean, going forward. And definitely they assess your candidature based on those points. And regarding the participation, I already mentioned that workshops, conferences, or be it any other event, be it seminar, debate competitions, these things not only, I mean, help you in learning, most importantly, they will always give you a perspective. You may
Hmm.
be thinking with the perspective X in some discipline, but
Hmm.
maybe you attended a particular event that completely shapes your perspective about things or about
Hmm.
your pursuits also, right? So in
Hmm.
that way, these things do help, I mean,
Yeah.
in self-assessment, self-evaluation, as well as, I mean, making it easier for oneself going forward to take a better call, which most of the times we end up getting confused by the time we are heading to complete
First,
our coursework.
yeah, yeah.
And
Like you have completed your masters from SMVDU, then you went for an M.Phil, and I'm pretty sure that both in masters as well as in M.Phil, you must be having a little bit of thesis work, right? And now you are in Ph.D, which again comprises major part as a thesis work. Now, tell me the difference between the thesis work or the dissertation which you have done in masters, then you went on to do in your M.Phil, and now you are going to do it in your PhD.
Okay, so masters, so like since my bachelor's only, I always was clear what area I want to work in. So I have been continuously working. Bachelor's dissertation was also in monetary economics. My masters also, then M.Phil also, and even Ph.D is in the same discipline. Number one, but the key difference here is, like I said, the more you explore the discipline, the more you explore the things, it may get a little complex when you try to get into the granularity of things, right? But the key distinction which I would say is that, I mean, if I have to summarize, masters, master dissertation would be giving a more broader perspective. If someone is reading my master dissertation, my M.Phil may be narrowed down to some more microscopic level, and then there is further granularity in my PhD
in
work.
the PhD level.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it
this is
keeps
this
getting
is
zoomed in.
this is a very good point, because when you are graduating or post graduating, it's a very broad thing, because you are
Yes.
not a master actually, though you will be getting a master's degree. But slowly and slowly, as you are going higher, you are actually making it narrow, because there the contribution lies, right? So that
Yes,
is very, very true.
and most importantly, like again, if we have to compare, so masters, because you are going broad with a broad perspective about things, it won't be that much complex, because it's easy to explain a broader phenomena or a
True.
concept. But when you get into more granularity, right? So more detailing, when you are looking with more detail, it's obviously going to get little complex, because
Yeah.
you have to fight sometimes with your own instincts, with your own thoughts,
Yeah.
when you're dealing with the problems. Yeah.
So when you are graduating or post graduating, things are still, I will say, interesting. But as soon as you go for the higher degrees, they become very boring, because that can be understood by very like experts of that field. Very few people on this earth and stuff like
But
that. Not many.
yeah, not exactly boring, I would say. Like, I mean, if yeah, I mean, if yeah, I mean, why I'm stressing on this thing, because if sometimes out of interest you are getting into a problem, you are
Yeah.
definitely going to enjoy. Yes, there
Very
will
true.
be bumps across the road. I mean, while you are going through, there will be ups and downs. That is for sure. Those phases are obviously the integral part of your PhD research, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
for
7
sure,
days
for
will
sure.
be, maybe 7 days could be as productive as an year of work, but
Yeah.
maybe the next month will be at, you will be at zero
Zero.
productivity,
Very.
right? But that's a part of research. But most important thing, I think, I mean, be it your bachelor's, master's, or PhD, is your perseverance, number one. And number two is, you have to keep the momentum. I mean, if you are keeping the momentum in, I mean, whatever pursuit you have, be it your preparation for any particular exam or academically also, it will pay off eventually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Vimarsh, I have a few questions, like those questions which may take you a little bit of time to think, but you can always give
Sure.
good answers. But before that, I will just ask one question out of curiosity. And this is something which I have seen about you in this university. Because when you joined, I guess so in 2013, 14, you
14.
came,
Yeah.
14, you came, right? And you passed out in 2019, right? So you also used to play basketball. I remember you were there in the basketball court.
Only
Uh,
once.
Only once, and I have
Yes.
seen you there. And I have also seen you at a lot of things. But later on, the Vimarsh Padha, which we knew say in the first and the second year, changed into a pure academic Vimarsh Padha. Not only that he was scoring high and was the topper of the class, but also like the amount of interest which you took for every extra co-curricular activity which has some part of academics associated with that. You were there in each and every competition, be it the Artha, be it the Resurgence, be it anything where there was some kind of academic activity, some kind of, say, literary activities, and you were participating. You were also there in the conferences and seminars, and apart from that, you were also scoring very high. So, how you could manage that amount of energy, because usually people give up after some point of the time, but you were like uh, accelerating with your age and with your years. Usually people will be very, very energetic in their first second year, then they slowly lose down, or cool down. You were getting energetic with your years, and you were so damn energetic even till your fifth year. So, what is it which you had and the other people never had?
I would like to thank my mentors and
Mhm.
my gurus who have been throughout, I mean, till date, they have been guiding me. I mean, specifically, I would like to make a special mention of Professor Jinnah, Dr. Kirti, then Professor Joshi. I'll just share small instance, like if we have time.
Yes.
So by the time I'm finishing my first year in SMVDU, so because I came from sciences discipline, I had physics, chemistry, math in +2. So economics was completely an uncharted territory for me. So by the time we got done with our first year, that is second semester, I still was not able to, get hold of things. The bare minimum fundamentals which you should know moving forward. There was sense of frustration also, despair also, because while you are preparing in your till your +2 for JEE and all, also it takes a lot of you in the process, right? And and there are a lot of expectation from yourself also. But I have been so fortunate that I was mentored by such gurus there in SMVDU, like Dr. Jinnah. He throughout literally for 5 years, he has sat with me day and night. I think continuously for 3 years we used to sit till 3 a.m. in his cabin, and his simple word of advice has always been, just keep working on things. Wherever you find difficulty, I am there to help you. And if he cannot help in his capacity, he'll be bringing forward the best resource person, not only from the institution, be it in the country or from rest of the world.
I remember.
Got me connected to those people also. And most importantly, the beauty of SMVDU, it holds for every department, I think. The student faculty or student mentor relationship that is there, you won't get it in every institution, that you can barge into anyone's cabin for help anytime. Otherwise you have to sit and write a formal email and wait for the reply from the professor or the concerned head, right, to have an appointment and work with them. Okay, to some extent it makes sense also, but there has been an element of flexibility in SMVDU, the personal approach which faculty have in terms of mentoring you. So that I think has really helped me, even from Dr. Tripathi, I would say, the social aspect.
I'm sitting in his cabin only right
yes,
now.
Yes, yeah, I can recognize. Yeah, so like other than academic life, because your social aspect is also very important, right? Like your temperament, it's not only your academic pursuits will keep you moving. You have to be balanced, I would say, not only academically, but there is other side of you which has to be balanced also, right? Be it your participation in the extracurricular activities or sports, or getting not only honed, or having an understanding of the social dimension also, the dynamics of human behavior, the other aspects which mostly the philosophy department has been trying to bridge in a way, be it in terms of imparting knowledge on human rights, sociology, or other philosophical subjects, right? So those things really help, because people were so accessible. The resource person which were there, they were so accessible, and they have helped me throughout. You talked about that, what kept you moving with that energy, right? Not only my mentors, my parents also, I would say. I can't be more thankful to them, because I never have been pushed by my parents to get specific into some discipline or in any pursuit. From their end, I always had that liberty. Whatever resources I want, I have been very fortunate that I always have had that access. So in that way, it always kept me in that state of mind that yes, I can get into hunt with the things which I want to pursue. So that really set me free to go about the things, I think.
Amazing. In fact, favorite quote of your life?
If you are at peace with yourself, you will be, everything will be at peace with you.
Oh, amazing. Favorite teacher? You can add from the school level to IITs. You can name 5, not a problem.
Okay, so number 1, Professor Jinnah. Number 2, Professor Supan. Number 3, Professor Kamaya. Number 4, Professor Kirti Ranjan. And number 5, my current supervisor. I really admire her, like the flexibility she offers me to work with my work. Sometimes it's like a supervisor tend to get very specific with their student that you have to work with this only. But yeah, I have a lot of flexibility from her end to pursue, what lines I am thinking the problems.
Okay. Okay. Favorite subject which you have studied apart from economics?
I have been recently reading some philosophical texts also. Yes, yeah, little bit. Not, pure philosophy, but yeah, some readings. But yeah, I really admire Krishnamurti, Jiddu Krishnamurti's work.
J.D. Grish.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Love of your life.
I think my parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Things which you hate the most.
Comparison. And and I would like to expound on this part, particularly because from the academic perspective, this is a serious issue. See, every person, whatsoever be the discipline, right? They have a different set of temperament. They have a different set of environment which they are dealing with. They have a different set of inputs which are coming to them, right? So it doesn't make sense to make comparison of things. I mean, be it in terms of your output or per se any other aspect. Yes, comparison may trigger competitive spirit, but that should not be the purpose, I think. I don't like being compared. I mean,
So jate, it's a very simple question which I can ask. Like, if suppose somebody is planning to go for higher studies, and he or she is very clear right from day one of graduation that he or she has to pursue higher studies. So, as Vimarsh Padha, or as a person who has seen like a moderate institution like SMVDU, as well as a very good academic institution like IIT, and you have degrees from both the places, what are the things, or say, what are the do's and don'ts which you will like to tell to, or say, expound on to a youngster who is planning to go for higher studies? He or she is having it in his or her mind, but he's not very clear how to do it. So, what will be your suggestion?
I think from that standpoint, if someone intends to get into this domain, first of all, like you mentioned, that they first question they may be encountering is that how to go about building that particular profile, right?
Academic profile.
Yes. First, you have to be honed with the relevant skill set. Then you can think of where the next horizon lies, which institution should I target, right? So first you have to work on your profile. Now the profile, it should have the required skill set which the industry is demanding today. Like I mentioned, you need to be, for economic students specifically, if I have to mention, you have to be honed with one programming language, which yes, and that language in a way that you are able to make application relevant to economics, like be it in terms of econometric analysis, etc. And that is augmented by computational subjects, which the computer science offers, the data science subjects, big data, etc. Right? So that can help you in getting honed with that skill. Number two, your communication skills. That definitely makes a difference when you are pitching in any domain. Okay. Number two. Number three, the core knowledge of your subject. You have to be versed with that. Number four, most important, is what you are doing beyond this entire curriculum. I mean, the formal curriculum, right? You should be looking for events or events particularly which are helping you getting honed with something additional than what everyone is getting honed with. Until you are not unique in the market, nobody is going to welcome you, right? It's as simple as demand and supply phenomena only. If a good is going to be rare in the market, you will be having a good price, right? So scarcity will offer you better price. So like that, get honed with that relevant skill set. Now comes the point that how to think of applying to good institutions, or how to gear up for preparing your application for these institutions. Number one, your application has to be very well polished. And I am sure you, sir, you personally have been taking up these sessions in terms of building the resumes, writing CVs. Even for the IELTS students, I remember you have been taking workshops for them also, right? So definitely, and GRE as well. So these key exam, if someone is thinking of applying abroad, they should start gearing up for the GRE exam, I would say. IELTS also they can prepare, but it's always better to first start preparing for GRE, because GRE will always get you into good institutions of the world. Okay, IELTS may not end up with the best of the institutions, but GRE will assure you, and a good GRE score will always help you with that. And in addition to GRE, you ought to have that solid profile, solid resume and CV with you. Okay, and that CV should constitute not only your GPAs in your core curriculum. It should have your participation in other activities also. And academically, if you are thinking, then obviously you have to polish it with the participation in workshops, conferences, seminars, and if possible, you should have some publications also. So
How
that
about
makes it easier.
internships and
Yes.
trainings?
So coming to the internship part. So what I personally think, even while I was doing my internship, I did it in EPW Research Foundation, and some part of it was in the RBI. So what I realize is that internship does give you a perspective, but before getting into internship, because most of the students are getting into internship just for the sake of getting into internship.
Yeah, because it
They
is a
just want it
requirement.
in their what they want it as an addition in their profile or resume. But one should acknowledge the fact that a particular skill set or a particular role which you are doing in an internship will make sense only if it is in line with where you are going to apply.
Yeah.
If I am having a marketing internship, it's nowhere going to help me in data science or some banking role, right? If I'm floating that resume or CV there. So yes, internships can be really helpful in giving you a perspective about your career, about your pursuit, whether that particular job role makes sense for you or not. You can take a call. But if it's not in line with your interest, I don't think there is any point of getting into an internship unnecessarily just for the sake of internship. But yes, those who are particularly preparing for the corporate roles or core non-core companies per se, so they should look for internships and internship programs specific to the roles they want to get into. And most importantly, I would like to mention that students should focus on networking also. With social media platform like LinkedIn, today you literally have every single resource person from a particular profile with whom you can connect. You can ask them out that for a particular role, what skill set you need to be honed with, so that tomorrow when you are applying to those companies or those institutions or those entities, they will be welcoming. If you are honed with what is required for that particular role, rather than having a general approach, getting honed with 10 different skills, but the job role which you are looking for, you are not having that particular skill. So definitely there is going to be a mismatch. So having that approach from the outset, that have a perspective, be clear about what role you want to get into and start getting honed with those skills. And that's why I was mentioning like earlier also, that when I used to participate in some seminar, workshops or any other event, the key intent was every time I'll be participating, I'll be getting some perspective that, okay, if this thing is making sense, how to get honed with this particular skill set. You can ask those resource person only who are in that domain, right? You cannot go to anyone and ask about a particular discipline.
True.
With a general approach, you cannot be specialized for a particular role, right? So this holds for even the BTech students, right?
Yeah.
So and I think if we are able to bridge this gap, most of the issues related to placements, because companies also look for a specific skill set in a student, right? And if that mismatch is not there, obviously that serves the purpose.
True. Very true. Very true. In fact, it was a very broad description of all the things which people may have. Yeah.
Yeah, and one addition I would like to make, like you earlier asked me about the comparison, no, between institutions, like so-called institutions of immense and the tier 2, 3, 4 institutions. The key difference, I think it depends on the approach, how we go about utilizing the resources. From student to student, it's not like that students from tier 2 or tier 3 are not getting into good places or not landing into good companies. They do, right? So the point remains, what is that is getting them there, right? We have to just realize that thing, right? So one thing I think from the curriculum perspective, I think which can be thought of even in place like SMVDU, could be the flexibility in terms of going for electives. For example, economics has an elective like Economics 101. I don't think it's being offered throughout the institute. It's not open to everyone, right? But if Economics 101, say, for example, is open to every BTech, mechanical, computer science, or any discipline, right? A student gets into that subject for the first year, I'm saying, they may get a perspective that, yes, this is something, which can be my forte, okay? And they may get interested, allow them to migrate into this discipline. That transfer policy is there in institutions like this also, and there are other institutions even in tier 2 cities also which are offering this flexibility, right? And what in the process happens, sir, what distinguishes so-called institution of immense with these tier 2, 3 institutions is number one, the exposure, which I mentioned earlier also. Now, how to make that exposure, realize that exposure? Because SMVDU, sometimes people argue that this is something which is very isolated from the mainstream institutions. Even in terms of geography, we are very isolated. That's why we don't have the resources or the resource persons, right? But I don't think so, because how that heterogeneity can be there. I mean, people like how to bring that heterogeneity element. For example, in economics, if I talk about, so if you allow student to migrate from other disciplines to this domain, automatically you can have that element of heterogeneity also, and that element of heterogeneity does help in, I mean, enhancing the outcomes of any discipline per se. Yeah.
Very true, very true, very true. In fact, that's what I was saying, that you very broadly explained about all the things. And in fact, once we will be putting this video, I guess so many more suggestions can come and we can work out on that, so that we can make our parent institution, your parent institution, and my right now institution a better place for students, because an institution is known by their students, right, rather than anybody else, and that is the most important thing. Anyways, but in fact, it was really, really, really nice talking to you after such a long time, and the good thing is that we kept it like है ना, this is something again which I can क्या कहते हैं उसको, I can edit this, that this was a mature interview, right? Not that basic interview which I keep, because मुझे ये कॉन्सेप्ट पता चला मैच्योर बैग के कॉन्सेप्ट से, जो कुछ सालों बाद मेरे ख्याल से थोड़ा सा वायरल हुआ था कि मैच्योर बैग्स होते हैं और नॉर्मल बैग्स होते हैं, एंड दिस एंड दैट. So this interview was a mature interview, and I'm really very happy to see you as a very mature individual. The way you came in and you have added over the years, and the way you are now, I really see a very budding, I will say, philosopher economist who will be coming up on the shows, and we will all be even more prouder of you. But thank you once again, Vimarsh, for joining today. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we will keep the discussion at a later stage as well, whenever it will be possible.
Sure.